The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast, ServiceNow series. Our guest today is Stephen Bailey. Stephen is the CTO at Chainbridge Solutions. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, JP, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. So, Stephen, lots to cover today. So let's jump straight in. Let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us a little bit of an overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been like from where you started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and how you got to where you are today as the CTO at Chainbridge?
Happy to. JP, I've been in the Federal GovCon community my entire career, actually. When I got my undergraduate degree, I actually started working in human resources because I had internships and practical experience that gave me a leg up during the hiring process. But round about the mid-90s, some of the leadership in our organization started sharing with me all of the exciting changes happening with client-server technology and the modernization that was happening across the government. And I jumped right into it. And honestly, I never looked back. Fortunately, they gave me an opportunity to change career paths, and I didn't hesitate and went for it. Most of my work leaned towards infrastructure and operations work, so managing engineering teams, data centers, networking, etc. And over time, as my career grew, the firms I worked for got larger and larger, usually through acquisition, as happens. And eventually, I was ready for a fresh start at a small firm. And it was about 2016. And I really wanted to focus more on the software side to broaden my experience. The Chainbridge Solutions opportunity just came out of the blue. I met the founder, Arthi Smith, and I knew right then and there that was my next move. Most of the work I did once I started at Chainbridge was in support of client delivery, client success, being hands-on to one degree or another. And then in September of last year, Arthi asked me to serve as the company's CTO, and that's what I do today, as you mentioned. I manage our Chainbridge Innovation Group, which is a team dedicated to exploring emerging tech, increasing Chainbridge capabilities and offerings, supporting customers where needed, of course, and developing talent and sharing knowledge across the organization. So that's my journey.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Stephen. And I want to jump straight into the innovation group, which you just described briefly. Just going back a step, just to set the stage and a bit more detail for Chainbridge. When you're looking at the broader business and when you're communicating what Chainbridge does holistically, how would you describe the mission and the high-level objective, given the industry that you work in and your own career background?
It's very simple, JP. I mean, we were founded to improve the vetting process. That's also thought of as the background investigation process that many of us go through if you join as a contractor or certainly a federal employee. If you join a federal organization, that's what we do. We improve that process through software, and that results in a safer workplace for everybody and a better onboarding experience too. And that's extremely important for organizations and people considering work with a federal organization.
Excellent, excellent. So going back to what you said, the innovation group sounds very interesting. And I know from previous conversations, you're doing a lot of exciting work. So talk to us a little bit more about how this translates to the projects that you're working on with your customers. So define the conversation. What are you guys doing? What opportunities are you identifying? And then tell us where ServiceNow comes into all of this.
So what we are trying to do is stay one step ahead of everything our teams are doing for our customers. In the federal space, they're, I think reasonably so, a little gun shy when it comes to pushing the envelope. They are stewards of taxpayer dollars, so they're not going to take unnecessary risks, which is totally understandable. But in some cases, our teams see an opportunity to improve efficiency, reduce costs, or just provide a better experience for our end users or the citizen. So when we see those opportunities, our team will launch a project to prototype something. And that's what we do in different areas. So we have cloud engineering, we have software development, we have, and of course, ServiceNow is one of our key focus areas. So we may be deploying, for example, HRSD for a customer, and we haven't been tasked to look into, say, position management, but we'll do that as part of SIG because we understand, we see what's coming. So we understand that position classification and the position descriptions that exist for the federal employee workforce are woefully out of date. And this is going to become critical in the context of vetting and trusted workforce 2.0, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But those type of initiatives that maybe aren't quite yet in scope or aren't quite, maybe our customers aren't quite comfortable pushing forward, we'll go ahead and demonstrate it, put a prototype together, show them what could be done, and then see how they react. More often than not, they appreciate having that perspective into what is possible. And sometimes it aligns with what they are funded to do or what they intend to do. And sometimes it doesn't, but that's okay. We're ready for the next customer when that comes up.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to clarify for the audience listening, you do more than just ServiceNow. You have partnerships with ServiceNow, but you also have partnerships with Amazon and with Microsoft and a number of other cloud and digital transformation technologies, which means when you go into these customer conversations, you're looking at the 10,000-foot view and you're picking the right technology to solve the right problem. But given the rapid adoption of ServiceNow in the public sector space, it's really becoming a technology platform that is trusted and respected. Therefore, there's so many exciting projects, and we're seeing a huge uptick in the need from all public sector agencies, whether they're state and local governments, right the way up to major defense and federal government agencies. Are there any recent examples of projects that you could share with us that you're particularly excited about? You don't need to disclose the exact agency, but something that sort of spotlights and showcases the work that Chainbridge is able to do while also utilizing ServiceNow as being a platform of choice.
Absolutely. So within the Department of Defense, we have a customer who they have a workflow process that is related to planning and budgeting and programming. So essentially, someone within the organization has a requirement, has a need that is not currently funded. And this is, of course, all happening on the back end with federal staff. This is before something has been put out for procurement or funding whatsoever. So they will have a need, and that need needs to be prioritized. It needs to be aligned with that organization's strategic plan. It needs to go through an approval process, and then, of course, budget programmed for a future budget. So it can be tied to that initiative at some future date. Maybe it's next fiscal year or the one after that. And so that entire workflow, it wasn't a workflow, right? It was a series of emails, spreadsheets. We've all seen this in the business, and that's how they operated. But we put together a ServiceNow-based solution that allowed everyone to track and see exactly what was being requested, how it aligned to the strategic vision of that organization, and where it was in the approval process, and then go through proper governance of planning and programming those kind of initiatives for the organization. So that was a very successful project for us, and one that we hope to repeat for other customers.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to switch directions slightly now and talk about the team that you work with, the team that you lead, the team that you've built and grown over your time at Chainbridge. Can you give us a bit of a look behind the scenes of what the organization looks like from the various teams, how you guys all work together on a project life cycle, and a particular spotlight on the ServiceNow group, because obviously you guys are premier partners, you have authorizations in lots of different sectors, tons of certifications, so you're very well known and regarded as being a premier partner servicing the public sector. So for our audience listening, I want to help give them a bit of a look behind the scenes and what it's like to be part of the team day to day.
I think like many of our other partners out there, we tend to operate on a Scrum team basis. So we'll have a team that is very comfortable working together. that is dedicated to a specific client. That could ebb and flow over time as a product is released. We push something to production and it's in production and working well. Maybe that team shrinks a little bit, but pretty much it's a one-to-one relationship between a Scrum team and a client. And that type of organization is generally what you're going to see here within the ServiceNow work practice area. We have a practice area lead for ServiceNow here, and that individual is responsible for kind of setting standards or guidelines, training initiatives, training content that's available for other team members. And when we say standards, of course, this is standards meaning this is our default, our go-to approach for a particular problem or a new project. But we don't really limit any of our teams to following certain standards when engaging with a customer. At the end of the day, different customers have different takes on things like level of customization, how much is out of the box versus tailored to whatever their use case is, or basically how they might want to secure their instances, secure applications, how open they might be to scoped applications or things of that nature. It can vary, so we don't impose our standards on everyone, but it's great to start with a default go-to approach that demonstrates we have a methodology that works. And then when we talk to the customers, if they have a different take on things, that's fine. That works totally fine.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Stephen, you and I were talking off air about the explosion of ServiceNow as a technology in the last 5 years. You joined Chainbridge back in 2016, and as we're doing this interview now, the end of 2024, we're looking at the evolution and growth of ServiceNow, and also how Chainbridge has capitalized on that and become a leader in providing some of the ServiceNow solutions to your customers. Can you give us some insight into how you guys leaned into ServiceNow, how you became a partner, not just for supporting customers, but you also started to look at the product side of things and create your own products within the ServiceNow store, creating your own custom apps. And as we talk today, what's available that's off the shelf from Chainbridge within the ServiceNow store for custom apps?
Earlier, I'd mentioned that we were, founded to improve the vetting process, the onboarding process, and that has a direct relationship to an initiative within the federal government called Trusted Workforce 2.0. Trusted Workforce 2.0 is a new paradigm for vetting, where employees and contractors will, over time, roll into a continuous vetting program. And this is a fundamental change that has driven huge demand for improved systems to facilitate compliance with these standards. So what we did was we essentially productized our domain knowledge on top of the ServiceNow platform. So today we have available a product we call BRIDGESECURE that is essentially a ready-to-go version of a personnel security or vetting system that can be deployed to a customer's instance and handle your personnel security caseload right off the bat. It's ready to adjust to the Trusted Workforce 2.0 changes that are coming over time. We just work with the customer to see where they are in their Trusted Workforce compliance journey, because everybody's in different spots right now, and then deploy it. So I think that's been a very rewarding evolution of our ServiceNow practice, because it excites people that we are recruiting, quite honestly, when they hear that we are productizing something that really gets their interest, because just doing ServiceNow work on a services basis, which is good work, we have plenty of that work, but having productized something and looking at a product management issue or product management type of approach to doing things, it's a very different experience that most ServiceNow engineering talent, they don't have that. So they're excited to get their hands dirty in that world.
I love that. And I definitely want to come back to the engineering talent and what attracts people to Chainbridge. But before we touch on the people side of things, you and I were talking before we started the recording about what's next for Chainbridge Solutions, and particularly looking at the next 1 to 2 years, the near-term roadmap. When you look at 2025, the opportunity that exists, the demand from your customers, and the appetite from potential new customers to start to utilize ServiceNow as part of their digital transformation and modernizing their tech stack. What excites you the most? What are you looking forward to work on, whether it be unique challenges or product evolution or just continuing to serve the customer base? Looking at 2025, the year ahead, what are some of the things that are important to you and what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, JP. Within my group SIG, we have a lot of different initiatives. As I mentioned, they're not all ServiceNow focused. It's things like data analytics, cloud engineering, and AI, right? But that's where that AI, especially that alignment with ServiceNow's evolution, is very exciting for us, because we see really the future of AI, especially when it comes to the federal marketplace, as being one of applied AI. And what I mean by that is where companies like Chainbridge Solutions, we are essentially taking off-the-shelf AI abilities, components, parts of a platform like in ServiceNow, and applying them to use cases for the government, right? In some cases, yes, we may build some AI capabilities from scratch, but this is where we see a bright future for working with ServiceNow. ServiceNow, they were, I'll never forget this, but the knowledge that I went to in Vegas after ChatGPT took off, boy, that place, it was on fire, right? They were gung-ho about adding AI to the platform. And today, things like Now Assist, a huge amount of AI features. That's really where we see a lot of growth for us as a partner and a lot of improved services for our customers who buy ServiceNow as a platform. It's going to be a phenomenal change. And it just takes a little bit of creativity to look at your customer base. And of course, we know what they do. We know how they do their work. And just a little bit of creativity, you can see where this is going to help them. You can envision the use cases that really will be addressed by the AI abilities within the ServiceNow ecosystem. We see a lot of growth in that area.
With that growth, that's going to then translate to continued growth for Chainbridge Solutions as a business and bringing it back to the people side of things. So I always like to finish these conversations to give you the platform to talk about the team, the growth, what's important. And I know when we were speaking earlier today, you were quite passionate about the people side of things. So going back to what you said a moment ago around one of the things that appeals to engineers is the unique nature of the work that you do and the impact they can have. As the CTO, you're trying to look at the trends in the market, you're trying to drive the business forward. And a big part of that is making sure you have the right people in the business. So looking at the year ahead, if you guys can continue to grow and meet the demand of the customers, what opportunities do you see for people to come and join you? Specifically thinking about ServiceNow and the opportunity of applied AI and leaning into all of the new advancements within the platform. If we have you back on the show a year from now, where will the business be? Where do you hope to grow? And what types of positions do you see yourself needing to hire for in the year ahead?
I think the engineering talent that's going to be required related to our ServiceNow business is only going to continue to grow. I think that in our world, the ability to of course, know your stuff, right? That's very important to us at Chainbridge Solutions. I think the optimal Chainbridge employee is one who wants to be recognized for what they do well. I always share with applicants when we're recruiting, don't come here to Chainbridge thinking that you can just lay low and go through the motions. That just doesn't work for us. If you want to excel and you want to communicate and have good engineering skills, I think those are the type of people who are going to do well here. And that's really essential for our growth. Our customers are relying on us to basically listen to their problem, their business problem, and translate that quickly into a ServiceNow solution. That's what we do like 90% of our day is that exact scenario. And so from a skill set perspective, it's not sufficient to have all the certs and just be able to sit quietly and crank it out in ServiceNow. That's not sufficient. We need to be able to communicate with our customers and as a team internally and say, this is what I'm hearing you say. This is where we think we can solve that problem quickly and deploy a great solution on ServiceNow. And so that kind of skill set it's only going to be in demand more and more here at Chainbridge because that's really the crux of what we do. Having said that, I mentioned the product, BRIDGESECURE. That's going to need ongoing product management and product support. And so that's an area we see growing because of those Trusted Workforce 2.0 changes. Once a federal agency understands that they need to make a move, they're almost inevitably going to come across Chainbridge Solutions because we're so well known in that vetting world on the federal side. I think those are the key growth areas. Data and analytics is adjacent to ServiceNow. Certainly, ServiceNow has many solutions within the platform to address analytics and to present data quickly and easily and in a way that's digestible, where you can do some predictive analytics. But those skill sets are also very valuable. Being able to understand the world of the customer's data, what their data model should be, what it is today, how we're going to do that translation as we deploy a new solution. Those skills are very useful as well.
As a CTO and as somebody who's been a leader in not just the technology space, but also within the Gov and PubSec, it's a unique environment with unique challenges, but incredible opportunities. For anyone listening who is early in their career, or maybe even just considering what industry they should apply their skills to, you have a unique perspective because you've spent your entire career in the GovSec. When you're speaking to graduates or junior engineers or people just looking for where they should focus, what advice do you offer them? And part two of that is, what can you tell us specifically about the public sector that people maybe are not as aware of the type of opportunity that exists within the space?
I think the advice I would offer, I think is probably similar to what any partner might offer, is to plug ServiceNow is a great place to start. So if you want to start your IT career or change into the IT sector, ServiceNow is a great career accelerator. You can do site configuration, administration, product implementation like we do, even custom app development. You can do it all in the platform. I would say generally, other pieces of advice I would share: communication, verbal and written, it's always important. If you want to have a fully remote position, I always share with everybody, our best remote employees tend to stand out because they are very strong communicators. And then specific to written communication, I think you have to be very comfortable documenting what you create. And this is important for public sector specifically as well, because the public sector, they will often ask for more deliverables than the commercial sector does. Let's just put it that way. And strong written communication is important. So don't control information, share it. I think that applies even out beyond the public sector. If you're an engineer and you build something, and then someone, say in sales, is asking for details about something you built, it's a great feeling just to point a colleague to a page in Confluence describing that project, or that having a graphic there that shows what it is, what the solution is. And you avoid a meeting probably, and that's good. So that's always important. Be very comfortable with written documentation. And I think that's really important, especially for the public sector, because they're always going to want to see documentation, engineering diagrams, data flow diagrams for security purposes, if nothing else. So that's what I would share.
Final question from me, Stephen. When you're speaking to candidates who you feel are the right fit, both from a culture and a technical standpoint to join Chainbridge Solutions, what is it that you tell them about Chainbridge, its mission, its culture, the team, the work, the opportunity that gets them excited enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies competing for this top level talent?
When I talk to those candidates, I make sure they understand we are a small company. We are not a huge enterprise, and that has advantages. And I share those advantages with them. I use this example all the time. If you're in a meeting and you say, hey, why don't we do it this way? Why don't we solve the problem that way? Or have you heard about this new feature? Have you heard about this new product? If you do that at Chainbridge Solutions, the next thing you're likely to hear is, let us know when you have the prototype ready, right? If you want to experiment, if you want to learn new things and just forge your own path, right? If you have ideas and you'd like to see them come to light, then you're going to do well here. There's no bureaucracy. There's no 5 levels of approval just to do one thing. We are small, nimble, we move fast, and we're very interested in show me, right? Let's not talk about it forever. Show me. And that's, for a lot of engineers, JP, that is super exciting. So that's the kind of culture we have. And I think that's very attractive to new talent.
Stephen, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was an absolute pleasure to learn about your own background, your journey, and most importantly, a great insight into the work you and your team are doing at Chainbridge Solutions and how you're utilizing ServiceNow to support your customers within the public sector space. It sounds like a lot of exciting growth in store for you guys, particularly in the next 1 to 2 years, focusing on ServiceNow. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at Chainbridge the very best of luck in the months and years to come, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the very near future.
Thank you so much, JP. It was a pleasure being on your show, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.